ilahi spirituality. There is, of course, spirituality which has nothing to do with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because the human being has a spirit. And so you will find people who are spiritual, but they could be satanically spiritual or otherwise. So in our spirituality, the basis of our spirituality is Iman. So we're going to talk a bit about Iman tonight, inshallah ta'ala. What is it? What are the benefits of it? What is it, and how do we build it, and how do we protect it, inshallah ta'ala. So, first of all, we all, of course, as Muslims, we all know the word Iman. Amantu billahi wa malaikatihi wa kutubihi ila akhirih. So we probably, since our childhood, we've been hearing this word, and maybe we've actually taken it for granted. Like Iman is something that, can we dispose of this? Is just getting in the way and just kind of making... Is that better? Okay. How is that? Is that okay? So we take it for granted. Also, we may take it for granted that since we said the kalima, so automatically we're infused with Iman. It doesn't work like that. Iman is a dynamic. It's not a static. It's something that goes up, it goes down. And inshallah, we'll talk about that more as we go on, inshallah. So what we would like to do just now is look at the importance and impact of Iman. That will give us an idea of how valuable this thing we call Iman. Okay? So usually what we do is we have a kind of Q&A, we have a kind of, interaction here, which we may dispose with that because we don't have time. But basically, if I ask you, what is the importance and impact of Iman in the world and in the next world, in dunya and akhirah? So start thinking about that. Just think. But now, everybody. Okay, Iman. Yeah, Iman. Okay, so what's the impact of this world and the next world? So, in that context, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, A'udhu billahi minash shaitani rajim, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. Oh. This is a very succinct and very amazing statement from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because number one, qad. Qad means that definite. There's no question about it. It's a emphasis. And aflaha is a past tense verb in the Arabic language. Qad aflaha. The people of Iman, mu'minun, I think you could understand that right off, that the mu'minun are the people of Iman. So what about the people of Iman? They have succeeded. Not they will succeed, perhaps they will succeed. It's done. They've succeeded. Now that poses a problem when you think about the fact that most of the mu'minun have not even come into the world yet at the time of the revelation of the Quran, isn't it? There was a few Sahaba, and then it goes on until today, 1400 plus years, and now it will go on Allah knows how long. But the statement here is that they have already, if they are people of Iman, then they have succeeded. So what does that mean? We use this kind of phrase in Arabic language to denote certainty. Like it's not perhaps or maybe or with some conditions. It means they have definitely succeeded. Allahu Akbar. Now, so this is the basis of all ultimate success. But now we have to also think about what we mean by falah. Aflaha, means that they have achieved falah, which roughly translates into success, which I think is a very weak and a very poor substitute. Falah is a very, very rich statement. Because falah means felicity in all respects, particularly in this instance. And we also can see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't designate what type of success. Is it success in a specific field or domain? No. It is what we say in the Arabic language, mutlaq. No conditions, no restrictions, no limitations, total success, which would include, of course, this world and the next world. You want success in the individual, you want success in the family, you want success in the community, in your business, in your agriculture, in your relationships, whatever. It's all going to be dependent upon, predicated upon this quality of iman. Allahu Akbar. So it's the basis of ultimate success in both the worlds. Now juxtaposed to that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. And then, of course, عَمَلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ and the rest. But the first criteria of people to come out of loss, because one is we want to succeed, we want to gain, and of course we want to protect ourselves from loss. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears by the time, وَالْعَصْرِ. And think about this, this is what we call in the Arabic language qasam, and we have the aqsam al-Quran. It's very interesting subject in the sciences of the Quran. The various things which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears by, وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَى وَالشَّمْسِ وَالضُّحَاهَا لَا أُقْسِمُ بِيَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ. These are various things which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears by. We're not allowed to swear by anything except Allah, but Allah swears, these are His creation. So what He means by this is that consider the magnanimity of what we call al-qasam, the oath, the thing for which the oath is being undertaken, like the night, the day of judgment, and things of this nature, the magnanimity of those things, those entities. So the magnanimity of those entities would indicate the magnanimity of the message which is going to ensue. Now, if we look at wal asr, the time. So as we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kana wa lam yakun ma'ahu shay. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has been. He's azali. And He's abadi. So He's always been. So in that context, time has also always been, in a sense. So it's not like today, yesterday, tomorrow. For the extended, unlimited, passage of time. So it doesn't get any bigger than that, does it? So what's going to be, the message coming after that is huge. It is magnanimous. And what is the message? إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ. The human being is in a state of loss. Sometimes we just talk about this surah, generally in Jummah khutbah, usually because it's, as Imam Shafi rahmatullahi alayhi mentioned, that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hadn't sent anything but this surah, it would have been sufficient. And why? Because it's the entire gamut of the deen. Felicity of this world and the next world. For the gain and to, save oneself from loss. Allahu Akbar. So, wal asri in al-insan. We have here also alif lam. This is ta'rif. It means basically the article. But it has various meanings in the Arabic language. It can mean a particular insan, al-insan, so-and-so. It could mean also what we call istighraq or jins, meaning the genus of human beings, and that's exactly what's inferred here. The entirety of mankind. Doesn't matter he comes from America, he comes from Pakistan, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Arabia, Palestine, wherever he happens to come from, the North Pole. If he comes from, the outer reaches of space, doesn't matter. He will be in loss as a default. That's the default mode of the human being. You're in loss, man. You have to get out of that loss, and there's only one way of doing so, by acquiring these four qualities. And it doesn't matter what your qualifications are, what resources you have, you are going to be in loss. There's no way out of it. And if you think about that, we mentioned yesterday also, if you think about all the various endeavors that human beings have been engaged in for time immemorial, and the culmination of those things today, for example, medically. You know, we pride ourselves in the amount of medical schools and universities and doctors and specialists. It was very interesting. I had something had to do with my tooth. So I went to the dentist. Now, when I was a kid, you go to the dentist, right? Now you don't go to the dentist, you go to which dentist? I went in, there was 8 different dentists. You got this problem, you got that problem, you got that, so you have to, I mean, it's unbelievable. And similarly with all these various specializations, you see. So one would think that with all these resources and all this wherewithal, we shouldn't be sick. I mean, the health of human beings should really be at a high level, and probably illness should have been a thing of the past. Is that the case? I think we're all very close to the time of COVID, which is a stark example, smack in the face of our what we call taqaddum, that, oh man, you're in loss. You are in loss unless you get it right by what comes thereafter. And you look at all the security, you look at economics. We have more wherewithal, we have more quote-unquote understanding, and yet we find ourselves deeper and deeper in loss, like a fellow who has fallen into quicksand. If you want to get out of quicksand, what do? The more effort you make, the deeper you go in. So the first thing you have to do is stop. And then hopefully you'll stop sinking, but you're still not going to get out. You have to have someone extend some kind of rope or something and then get pulled out, otherwise there's no way out. So similarly, we have to stop. Whatever we're doing, it's not working, forget it, folks. Hang on to the rope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let Allah pull us out. And He's telling us, I can pull you out very easily. You have to acquire 4 things, and these 4 things, it doesn't matter what type of external resources you have. Everybody has an even playing field for the acquisition of these 4 criteria for success. You know, we think we have to have this degree, you have to have this pedigree, you have to be from this country, you have to have this kind of passport. I don't know. None of that is necessary. Nothing external is necessary. It's all internal. You have to, number 1, acquire iman. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. So you're going to be in loss unless you acquire iman. And of course, the manifestation of that iman would be amal as-salihat. And you, being that you are from the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so you have to also engage in presenting that to the rest of mankind. And it's not easy, it's tough. So you're going to have to encourage one another for that, to keep that momentum of building iman and protecting iman and the actions and manifestation of iman, and making an effort to bring that into the world. So, on the positive side, the people of iman have been they will totally succeed. And only those who will come out of loss and failure are the people of iman. So I think that's sufficient. We can wind up the discussion with that. But of course, the Quran is replete with verse after verse after verse after verse of the benefits of iman. And we're going to look at a little bit of that. So the deliverance from ultimate loss in both the worlds, along with the basis of ultimate success in both the worlds, dependent on iman. So obviously, it's the most precious commodity there is. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant me and you and all Muslims, all humanity, this great gift and this great precious treasure. So, of course, you know, people think, well, if I have iman, okay, inshallah, I go to Jannah. Fine, no doubt. But there's also benefits while we're here as well. For example, guidance. Without guidance, you're lost, obviously. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَهَادِ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. And we don't need guidance. It's not a one-off, like we get guidance and we're good to go. No, we need guidance every moment of our existence. For every moment, we need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's support and guidance. Otherwise, any moment we can be taken off by nafs, by shaitan, by the environment, and so forth. So, that special guidance which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants, this enlightenment of the heart and the guidance, you know, towards what will be beneficial and what will be detrimental, that is going to be, again, for the people of iman. People of iman, they are going to get guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promises. And indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the guide of those people who have believed, the people of Iman. Dignity and honor. What is more precious to the human being than his dignity and honor? The Urdu-speaking community, that's very famous what they say. Izzat ki baat, bhai. Izzat ki baat. Usually it's used in a very flimsy context, but no doubt, real honor, and of course real honor comes again from Allah. Lillahi al-izzatu wa li rasulihi wa lil mu'mineen. Izzat, honor, dignity, it is the wellspring of all of that is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and of course He gives to the people of Iman, and therefore to His Prophet and the people who follow him, the people of Iman. And then of course, as they say, La karama kal istiqama. There's no karama like istiqama. People are looking for these miracle deeds to indicate that somebody is very close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's see him fly, let's see him walk on the water, let's see him turn dirt into gold, or people think that's a great thing. Well, I suppose it is in its own way, but there's something much greater than anything like that, and that is that a person remains steadfast on the deen. To mean steadfast on your salat, on your zakat, on your khuluq, on your mu'amala, on your, remaining aloof from all disobedience. That's a huge thing to do. And to remain consistent on that is the greatest, honor that one can have. And so, that steadfastness which is known as istiqama, that is also going to be for the people of deen. يُثَبِّتُ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا بِالْقَوْلِ الثَّابِتِ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will يُثَبِّت, give them steadfastness, keep them firm. Who? The people of Iman. The people of Iman. بِالْقَوْلِ الثَّابِتِ. And of course the qawl al-thabit is the kalima La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, to keep them remaining upon the demands of that kalima, the requisites of that kalima. It's for the people of Iman, for that special tawfiq from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all. Not only here in the world, but at the time of death, in the qabr, and in the hereafter on various manazil. And we're going to see in various stages of our existence, right up to paradise, this ayat, it comes to play. And of course, why did we all come here to America? The American dream. Whatever that might be. Seems to be a very elusive commodity, It seems to become more of a nightmare than a dream, doesn't it, for many. So everybody, by nature, by human nature, everybody wants to have a blessed and better life. We leave our countries, we struggle, and go through huge amounts of effort and spend huge amounts of wealth to acquire a better life, beautiful and blessed life. Well, those are all external things generally that we are seeking. However, real blessed life, real, happiness, it's all in the heart, isn't it? When you're happy, where do you feel that? Do you feel happy in your pocket? You feel happy in your bank account? Does your house feel happy? What about your car? All of that stuff. The idea is we think that through all of these external things that we're going to get some feeling of happiness. The irony is it works pretty much the opposite. It seems the more things we have, the less happiness actually that we feel, because we're too much worried about our things. And it seems that we're more worried about the things that we don't have than enjoying the things that we do have. I've got a house over my head, alhamdulillah, shukr, yeah, but look at that house. I have this size plot, my neighbor has this size plot, and over there on that, they've got that big plot. So you're always going to be in a turmoil, dissonance. You're never going to be happy. If our criteria of success or our criteria of happiness, we think that would be on things, it is a elusive objective that we'll never acquire. Impossible, because there's always something better, there's always something more that we'd like to have, So we're not going to find really a blessed life in that. And as a matter of fact, that's kind of a nahusa, if you will. It's kind of like a curse, you know. And that's why we find, you know, people are constantly struggling, and therefore they have to have this 24-hour entertainment going on. They can't just sit there and enjoy the fact that they're alive and, you know, absorb all the ni'mat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surrounding them. Look at the sky, look at the earth, just see themselves, just observe they have a family around them. They have so many, you know, favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that nobody can count for one human being. No, they're too busy, you know, this chatter, this internal chatter. I wish I had that, I wish I had this. Why not this? Why do I have to, you know? So actually the beautiful and blessed life again comes with Iman. Iman and amal salih. Right? من عمل صالحا من ذكر أو أنثى وهو مؤمن فلنحيينه حياة طيبة. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, forget that, that's not going to work. Whoever does righteousness, amal salih. And you can't do amal salih, which is righteous action, unless you have Iman, because the criteria of righteous action is that it is for the sake of Allah. There's basically two big criteria. One is its intention is correct, and the action is correct, meaning it is mutabiq of Sharia and Sunnah. Right? So these actions are going to bring us this beautiful and blessed life. And as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub. So when we have Iman, we remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah places happiness, contentment, satisfaction in the heart. You know, there's all kinds of things. I don't know about if you all have observed that, but I have definitely observed this everywhere. I've found that the happiest people are always the poorest. Generally speaking. You know, how many people from Karachi? Old people, yeah? Old people, Karachi, yeah. So in Karachi, we've got we've got this place called Defense, where the richest people of Karachi, they live in a place called Defense. That itself sounds pretty scary. I mean, you got to have defense, you know, and really, you've got these big walls and then barbed wire and then all these cameras, you know, and they've got all these armed guards. Now, if you go to the central prison, you see pretty much the same thing. As a matter of fact, you see exactly the same thing. And you know, it's amazing that probably the people in the prison, they're getting a better sleep than, you know, Saab in his bungalow, because, you know, the prison is more secure than that, you know. So, he's not really it. Now, on the other hand, if you go to these, you know, you go to these poor, you know, ilaqa like Golimar, Liaqatbad and these kind of places, you know, and you find these people, they live in like little matchbox houses, piled on one another, you know, rooms just big enough to kind of just sleep in, you know. And then you ask him, Bhai, kya haal hai? Allah ke bari shukr hai, alhamdulillah. Allah ke bari marban. He's very happy. And you ask Saab there in Defense, Bhaijan, kaise? Main kya bata sakta hu? Masle masail. You know, jama. You know, we have so many masalas, it's not even so many. We have so many compounded masail that I can't even begin to tell you how terrible my life is. Wait a minute, you got all this stuff. I'm being punished by all this stuff. So the things are not in the stuff. No happiness in things. Happiness is in remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub. And the remembrance of Allah has so many forms, you see. So, and all of that is based on Iman. Without Iman, you can't do the remembrance of Allah. You don't even believe in Allah. You don't have connection with Allah. It doesn't mean you just, you know, your tongue is going, Allah, 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 Allah. It means that your tongue is saying Allah, your heart is feeling Allah, your eyes, your ears, your mind is contemplating on Allah. And then you will be mutmain. You'll be the happiest person on the planet. One of our great scholars, Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, he says, ماذا يفعل أعدائي بي? What can my enemies do to me? I mean, you know, it's like our brothers and sisters in Gaza. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala open the way for them and reward them. They have been an ibrah for all of us and the entire humanity today. Allahu Akbar. So he says something like that. He says, قتلي shahada. They kill me, shahada. Great. You know, Why can our brothers and sisters, particularly the mothers, this is the most amazing thing. These mothers, they have these pieces of their children. And they're saying, Alhamdulillah, lillahi ma akhada, lillahi ma a'ta. How can you say that and believe that with Iman? And you know something? With that Iman, people are seeing videos. They're not even there watching this and actually meeting this woman. People see videos of this. They say, whatever that woman has, that's the most awesome thing in the world. And they're becoming Muslims, right, left, front, and center, just seeing the videos of our brothers and sisters. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not letting their blood go in vain. And the people who are spilling it, they're not going to get away with it. Be sure. Allahu Akbar. But, so, Ibn Taymiyyah says, if they kill me, shahada, great. Suppose they lock me up. وَحَبْسِي khalwa. So they lock me up, I'll be in khalwa. Why do you have this i'tiqaf in Ramadan? Khalwa. We get away from the creation, It's always a pain in the neck. People are, Allah bless all the people, but and we all know having to deal with people all the time, there's problems. So to get away from all the creation and just be alone with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we can talk to Allah, we can pray to Allah, we can remember Allah. That's it. To be alone with your beloved. So if they put me in the prison, wonderful. Khalwa. Right? And as a matter of fact, that's what they did actually. They locked him up. And he used to pray for those people who locked him up. Can you imagine this? Somebody locks you up and Allah give them more and more jazai khair. Why? Because in that khalwa, he actually compiled this is a famous book of tafsir, which is something, just unique. So he says, because of this khalwa that these people have, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's tawfiq, have afforded me, I've been able to, have these, inspirations of what I never would have had otherwise. So he says, so that's what happened. And then he says, okay, if they exile me, like we see today a lot of exile, people just rounded up. By the way, I've been on the planet around 75 years. I've never seen anything like this in America. Yeah. I've seen a lot of things. I've seen the 60s. I saw civil rights. I saw, the Vietnam War, mashallah, but I never saw anything like what we're seeing today. But it's in the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq and save us and protect us. And Allahu Akbar. So he says, if they exile me, suppose ICE comes and grabs me and sends me off here or there, okay, it's siyaha. It is. It's a journey, like holiday. Well, you go in we say in Arabic, yani siyaha, traveling from place to place. And when you go on journeys, and journey, by the way, very interesting. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, gives siha and revives and refreshes your whole outlook on life when you travel. That's why you find our ancestors, they were very particular about traveling about, seeing, observing. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Sihu fil ardi fanduru kayfa kana aqibatu alladhina kana min qablikum." Go, look around in the earth. And there's an interesting riwayat, "Safiru tasihhu." In the compilation of Tabrani, it says it's a long narration, and in that narration it says, "Safiru tasihhu." Travel and be healthy. Get health. Allahu Akbar. And then there's another riwayat. What does it say? I'm forgetting now. Anyway, so he says, so if they exile me and send me out, then it'll be a travel in the world. So in other words, and that is possible when we have Iman, because one of the dimensions of Iman is what we call Iman bil Qadr. Everybody understands that? Iman bil Qadr. What's going to happen, it's written. It's going to happen, regardless. And the belief, the Iman bil Qadr, is such a treasure. We don't really realize that, perhaps. Hopefully we will realize that and give shukr. When we have a belief that whatever is going to happen, or whatever has happened, is happening and will happen, it's all in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's master plan. it could not be one iota different. That's one. So one thing is, it can't be otherwise. Whatever happened, whatever's happening, whatever will happen, it's going to happen regardless. I like it or I don't like it. So I'll be much better off liking it, be happy with it. Because not only is it going to happen, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by the virtue of the fact that He is Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, right? So the overall scheme of His whole master plan is in our best interest. Of course, we don't understand that most of the time. Why was I born in this country? Why do I have this kind of passport? Why is my skin this color? Why is my wife like this? Why is my husband like that? You know, and so forth and so on. You know, why is this happening to me? Because it's in your best interest. Okay, you little human being, you don't understand that. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, يَعْلَمُ وَأَنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Allah knows you don't know. In the ultimate overall scheme of things, in the final analysis, it's always in your best interest. Now, if we want to ponder on that a bit more, just look at Surah Kahf, which we're supposed to read every Friday, right? Do we all read Surah Kahf every Friday? Do we ponder over the meanings of what's in Surah Kahf every Friday? So let's make intention that, yes, alhamdulillah, we read it. There's barakat, there's nur for 7 days, an extra 3 days, protection from Dajjal. But why? What's in that surah? So we should look at it, and particularly the youngsters, youth. The whole thing, Surah Kahf, this cave. Who went to the cave? These young fellows. They went up against the tyrants of their time. And look at the world we live in today. Tyrant, You know, that's who's running the show. Tyrants. And it's getting more and more difficult to face up to them. So what happens? Ultimately, if we have Iman, then Allah is going to protect us like He protects them. Fa'wu ila al-kafi. You know, go to the cave. And so the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala He can afford you by any way and means that He likes. So we're supposed to reflect on that. So in Surah Kahf, there's so many very important lessons. And that's a whole, you know, that could be a whole long discussion. Look at all the, you know, subject matter. And it's not something that's very deep and, you know, hard and difficult to understand. Very, very salient things. You know, the example of this world, the example of the two fellows, with the fellow with the garden and his friend, the Surah Kahf itself, the story of Adam alayhi salam with Malaika and so forth. And ultimately, we come to the story of Musa and Khidr. Okay? Now Musa alayhi salam, think about this. Musa alayhi salam is from the Ulul Azm min ar-Rusul. 5 major prophets, Musa alayhi salam is one of them. There's so many prophets, but he's one of the greatest ones. If not the greatest one after Sayyidina Rasul alayhi salam. We see nobody mentioned in the Quran, period, more than Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam. He's the most mentioned prophet in the Quran. So how his understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so at one point, the children of Israel, Bani Israel, they asked him, Ya Musa, is there anybody in the world more knowledgeable than you? So if he's this great prophet and he's the prophet of the time, would there be anybody more knowledgeable than him? Doesn't seem so. And so, probably based on that assumption, he said no. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, don't say anything without, you know, first conferring with me. I know who's here, who's not here. You don't. I have an abd, I have one of my slaves, he has more knowledge than you. Actually, it's in the specific areas of expertise that Musa alayhi salam is not involved in. That's not in his portfolio. I have another slave, he's got another portfolio, and I've given him what we call ilm taqween. You know, I'm using him to do certain things of my master plan that are going to be very, very upsetting to many and not comprehensible to many, if any. So that kind of knowledge Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to Sayyid Khidr alayhi salam. Musa alayhi salam is sahib al-sharia. Halal, haram, aqidah, all this straightforward stuff. Okay. So Musa alayhi salam, you know, didn't say, oh, I've got competition. You know? You know, usually what happens is, you know, somebody's in a particular field, and then somebody's mentioned that he's more than you or he's on your level, then people start feeling jealous, and how do we eliminate the competition? That's the materialist mentality. Musa alayhi salam is a Rabbani. He's connected with Allah. He wants knowledge. His knowledge is about getting close to Allah, and whoever has anything that he doesn't have in that context, Ya Rabbi anni lahu ilayh. He said, Ya Allah, how can I meet this fellow? How can I find this fellow? I want to learn from him. Musa alayhi salam is now taking on the role of the student. This is very important for the talabat al-ilm and those who consider themselves ashab al-ilm. If we hear about somebody who has knowledge that we don't have, we should be enthralled to go and meet such a person and benefit. Anyway, so Musa alayhi salam goes, and you'll find that the story in the Quran, it's mentioned. So the first thing they do, they have to cross over the water, and if you're crossing over the water, you need a boat, and to get on the boat, you need to pay the fare. And so Khidr knows these individuals. They say, Ya Khidr, ahlan wa sahlan, tfaddal. They get on the boat, they doesn't even charge, and right in the middle of the ocean, Khidr just pulls out a plank and sinks the boat. That's a great way to pay them, right? Showing a gratitude. So Musa alayhi salam is, and not only that, he's destroyed the property of these people. I mean, this is not on. You can't do that. And why would you want to do that in the first place? So obviously Musa alayhi salam, this is a clear breach of Sharia, and he objects. And Khidr told him previously, you're not going to be able to be patient. You want to be with me, you're just not going to be able to be patient. I do stuff that's just out of the realm of your understanding. No, I'll be patient. So now when he objects, he says, I told you. Oh, I'm sorry. Don't take me to task. There was a slip on my side. Just let me continue. I said, okay. Don't ask any questions unless I tell you. They go along. They're walking down the road. There's a beautiful little kid. Khidr walks up to him, and rather than petting him on the head and mashallah, barakat, he kills him. Some say he pulled off his head, some say he slaughtered him. Anyway, he definitely killed this little boy. Now, one thing is sinking a boat, but you kill this innocent child? No, of course, Musa, this is totally haram, right? قتل النفس بغير نفس. This is terrible. What have you done? I told you, you definitely cannot remain with me. This is going to be too tough for you. So now by this time, Musa alayhi salam is starting to understand, yeah, this looks pretty difficult. This fellow is really doing some strange stuff. I just don't know what the deal is. He said, okay, if I ask anything else, then you can just call it a day. And then they come to a village, and in Semitic peoples, and people all over the world, a stranger comes to your town, what do? You honor him. Mehman nawaza, as you say in your Urdu, right? You give him ikram. So here's this obviously very auspicious, two wonderful people. I'm sure that their nur must have been, so illuminating. And nobody was ready to give extending any kind of kindness to these people. However, they find, as they go outside of the village, they find this wall that's collapsing. And so Khidr, in some of the riwayats, they said, Khidr just puts his hand, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's amr, the wall just stands up straight and is now safe and secure. So Musa alayhi salam says, okay, these people now at least, so they didn't extend any kindness, but at least now you've actually deserved to be given something in recompense. He said, okay, that's the end. هذا فراق بيني وبينك. So then he explains. He explains to them, okay, now I'm going to explain to you what you are not capable of comprehending, and as a result, you are pretty upset. So, number one, the boat. So apparently it seems, looks for all practical purposes, that I have destroyed this boat, but there was a reason for that. The fact of the matter was that there was a tyrant king roaming around the area and snatching every decent boat that he found. Now, this was a very, very decent boat, and it would have been snatched, so what I did was, in relatively shallow water, I sunk the boat so that, one, The king wouldn't see it, he wouldn't get the boat, but number two, it would be in such a way that they could retrieve it thereafter. So they saved their boat. So it looks like I destroyed their boat, but I didn't destroy their boat. I saved their boat. Oh. Now would those fellows on the boat understood that? They wouldn't have understood that. Even Musa alayhi salam, he couldn't see the reality behind that. Now this kid, what about this kid? I mean, what's his sin? He said, well, in the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this small child, ultimately, when he would become mature, he's going to, go off the track, he's going to fall into kufr, and he's also going to drag his parents along with him, which is going to be disastrous not only for him, it's going to be disastrous for his parents as well. So for the safety and benefit and well-being of all, let's clip it at the bud, as they say. So I took his life so that Allah may replace for someone who would be more la'iq, more appropriate. And as a result of that, of course, the parents are saved from that travail and that trial and tribulation. At the same time, the child also. If the child has not reached the age of puberty, he's not going to be held responsible. He hasn't done anything yet. So he left this world, inshallah, pure and clean. And so everybody was saved. It looked terrible from the outset, but the reality was, it was in the best interest of everybody. So the point is that we're making here is this iman. This is iman bil qadr. It is such a treasure because if we have this belief and we have this understanding, okay, this is happening to me, and we need this anytime, but in this 21st century of ours, what we're facing, as Muslims, as human beings. So all these things are happening. It looks traumatic to the final degree. We don't see any light in the tunnel. We think this is a disaster. All of this is happening for our betterment. It's in our best interest. Why did my child die? Why did I have this issue with why did I get this disease? Why did this? Because Allah wanted it. Nothing happens except that Allah has decreed it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not decreed it except it's in our best interest. This is a very, very huge and very, very important lesson. Sometimes a very difficult lesson, even though we can conceptualize, okay. I just talked about this in Pennsylvania, and somebody asked this question, but wait. Okay, I understand that. But still, for example, we see what's going on in Gaza, we see what's going on in Burma, we see what's going on in Sudan, we see what's going on in our own country, we see here, there, and so we know that Allah has some hikmah behind all of this, but I can't understand what it is. But still, I'm feeling sorrow. And I might shed tears. So is this against Iman bil Qadr? Is this against tafweed ilallah? No, not. The Prophet ﷺ, when his own son died, and so many instances, when his grandchild also died, the child of Zainab radiallahu ta'ala, when Ja'far radiallahu ta'ala and Abdullah ibn Rawaha and Zayd, they were all martyred, he was seen weeping clearly. The Prophet ﷺ was, somebody asked, Ya Rasulullah, tears? What's this? He said, this is a rahmah from Allah. If you're a human being, you're going to feel sorrow. If you're a human being, you will shed tears. This is a virtue. This is not a vice. What is a vice is you say something which is in objection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's decree. And therefore, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, my eye sheds tears and my heart feels sorrow. But I won't say anything or even think anything that will be other than what will please Allah. So that's fine. And in fact, if we don't shed tears, if we don't feel sorrow, we better check out our humanity. I mean, we've lost our humanity. So this is all part of Iman. So this Iman, I mean, we can go on and on and on and on. Our whole life we should be reflecting on this ni'mat of Iman, ni'mat of Islam, just to enter into the equation, enter into the gamut, and then Iman, the actual foundation of this belief in the heart. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all these things. A blessed and beautiful life. And ultimately Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's friendship and alliance. You know, we all say this, Wali Allah, particularly in the subcontinent we say, Allah ki wali. So we have this idea, this guy flying in the sky and walking on the water and I don't know, really strange stuff. And if you go in the masajid in some of the places, you know, in the villages, you'll hear some really strange stuff. But that's not what walayat is, you know. I mean, you have even these jadus, you know, these jaduwalas, you know, they do stuff even more amazing than that. Dajjal is going to do stuff even more amazing than that. He's clearly shaitan. But, so that's not the thing. The thing is as we said before, istiqamah. So who is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's friend? Wilaya. Who is Allah ki wali? Ala inna awliya Allah la khawfun alayhim wa lahum yahsanun. The friends of Allah, they have no worry, no sorrow, no anxiety. Who are they? Alladhina amanu wa kanu yattaqun. Iman amal salih. Taqwa is what? Obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's orders, abstaining from His prohibitions. You see somebody that believes in Allah, he's trying to obey Allah, he's Allah ki wali. Of course they have darajat. Lahum darajat inda rabbihim. I mean, there's really, really high levels and statuses of wilaya, and there's lesser ones. But every mu'min muttaqi is the wali of Allah. Subhanallah. So, where does this wilayat come from? Where does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's alliance, where His special friendship comes from? And if Allah is your friend, then what do you have to worry about? Right? It comes with iman. Allahu waliyul ladina amanu. Allah is the wali of the people of iman. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among them. And again, defense. You know, this is the La ilaha illallah. You know, how can we defend ourselves from this, that, and the other thing? Well, the overriding umbrella concept, believe in Allah, and if Allah is with you, إِن يَنْصُرْكُمُ اللَّهُ فَلَا غَالِبَ لَكُمْ وَيَغْذُلْكُمْ فَمَنْ ذَا الَّذِي يَنْصُرُكُمْ مِنْ بَعْدِهِ. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes to your assistance, who can fight with Allah? Who's going to, you know, get through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's protection and harm you in any way, shape, or form? And if Allah leaves you alone, then who's going to help you after that? None. So verily, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, you know, being assisted and being protected by virtue of their man. Inna Allah yudafi'u 'anil ladina amanu. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala indeed defends the people of iman, the people who have believed. And then another, we could say, icing on the cake. You know, because what we want is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's, you know, love, that He is pleased with us, that He loves us. But along with that, it's also nice that the people like you. It's also, so this is by human nature, this is something, you know, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts the love in the heart of the people for the people of iman. Right? Inna ladina amanu wa aminu salihat siyajluhumur rahmanu wudda. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts in the heart of the creation the love of the people who have iman. And in that you can read about the Sahaba, you know, the amazing things, you know, that, subhanallah, you know, as our elders, they say, you know, not only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loved the Sahaba and His pious, you know, His pious servants, but He would also subject everything to the service and the khidmat of His servants. He's your wali. So all that creation, which all belongs to Allah, He can subject that and, you know, make it all subservient to you. Therefore, they say that who is subservient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, dedicates himself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah makes the creation subservient to them. Now, juxtaposed to that, who becomes subservient to other than Allah, then he becomes under the authority and tyranny of all other than Allah. Allahu Akbar. And it's also said, to the extent that we love Allah, then Allah will put our love into the hearts of the creation. And this is basically what this ayat is saying. Indeed, those who have believed, the people of Iman, and do righteous actions, amal salih, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ar-Rahman. You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses, He mentions Himself by the appropriate sifa, the appropriate characteristic. And this is a manifestation of His, you know, sublime rahmah. that He will put in the hearts of the creation the love of this individual by virtue of his iman. And then ultimately, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا رَبُّنَا اللَّهُ ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا تَتَنَزَّلُ عَلَيْهِمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ. Allahu Akbar. So all of those benefits in the world. Now the world, after all, whatever benefit we get, we're leaving here. As a matter of fact, if you look at it, there's no certainty in this world. Is there anything certain in this world? I'm going to live until Salat al-Isha? Do we know that? We don't know. Am I going to succeed in my business? Is my marriage going to work out? Are my kids going to be salihah? Is my career going to, pan out for me? There's no way of knowing that. There's no certainty in anything of the world. There's only one certainty in life, and it is death. That's the one certainty. So it's a paradox that which is uncertain, we're all so engaged in. We're all so worried about. And by the way, it's all, as we just said, it's all going to pan out according to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's plan, not any different. It's going to happen how it's going to happen. Yet we are totally involved. We're either thinking of lamenting about the past, or we're worried about and planning for the future, and we're too busy to enjoy the moment and do what we should be doing for the moment. So the only certainty that we have in this life is the death, and for that, what are we preparing? In my 24 hours today, from the time I woke up until now, 9 o'clock this evening, how much thought did I put into my certainty, which is death? The grave which I'm definitely going to, how much did I think about it today? And if I thought about it, what preparation did I, as a result of that thinking about it, do? So this is why Nabi alayhi salatu tells us, أَكْثِرُ مِن ذِكْرِ هَادِمِ اللَّذَّاتِ. Incessantly, excessively remember that event which is going to destroy all the pleasures. هَادِمِ اللَّذَّاتِ. Death. So therefore, the muraqabah of death, or the dhikr al-maut, this is something that we should be doing daily. We had some of our pious ancestors, they used to have a qabr in their house. And they would go and sit by there every day and think, okay, this is my real home. This is not the house above the ground. That's my house below the ground. I had a dear friend in Karachi. He's a very simple fellow, and mashallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by virtue of his taqwa and wallahu alam, his proximity with Allah, he became just this amazing kind of wali kind of fellow, Allah wala kind of fellow, as we say. And when you would visit him, then he would take out a picture. One time we were sitting with him, and he took out a picture. He said, "This is my qabr," and he's actually had prepared his qabr, and it was all prepared and ready. He said, "This is where I'm going, so I'm trying to get ready for that. So make dua for me, with afiyat." And he's there now. Subhanallah. So that is the culmination. So that's where we're headed. There was a fellow, he was walking in the way, and he was going to some town which he didn't really know the way. He didn't have GPS in those days, right? So he sees this old man sitting on the roadside, and the old man, the fork is in the road, so which road goes to this town? He said, well, this one goes to the town. So he goes. At the end of the road, what does he find? He doesn't find a town, he finds a graveyard. So, this old guy's playing games with me, huh? I'll show him, Comes and say, oh man, you think you're playing jokes with me? I'm asking you the town, you sent me to the graveyard? He said, well, I'm an old man, as you can see. And I've seen people come and go from there, what they call the town, but I don't see anybody that goes there leaving from there. That's where the people are living. So how much are we preparing for that? So now, the people of Iman, what's going to happen? That's why we have the riwayats, al-maut tuhfat al-mu'min. Actually, death is the gift for the mu'min. Therefore, we find the Sahaba say, when they're on the throes of death, tomorrow is the day that I'll meet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions. What a wonderful day this is going to be. What a great time this is. That's what they saw death as being. We, of course, we don't know what our position is. We don't even really have a tasawwur. We just see that everybody cries about dying, and it means that we're going to leave the world, leave our loved ones, leave our comfortable life here in the suburbs of New York. So that's all we don't see beyond that. We need to see beyond that. And this ayah talks about this. The people of Iman, against the people of Iman. They say Allah is our Rabb. They remain constant, consistent on the reality of that. So it's not just they're saying something, it's because of their Iman. These are people of Iman, and they remain steadfast on their Iman and the requisites of Iman. So what happens? At the time of death, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us and give us this kind of, reality. And that at the time of death, just picture, now I'm leaving the world. So on the one hand, I don't know what I'm going to meet. I don't know if my salat, my sawm, anything was maqbool. Maybe Allah accepts, maybe He rejects. I don't even know if my iman is going to be accepted. We don't know. And then I'm leaving behind my wife, my children, my business, my inheritance, or whatever. And so on the one hand, I'm fearful of what is facing me, and I'm very anxiety-stricken for what I'm leaving. So at this very, very difficult time, the people of Iman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send these angels, a whole delegation of angels. Relax, relax. The angels are going to come down to them. Now he's between life and death, and he doesn't know what's going to happen, what he faces and what he's leaving behind, what's going to be the condition. So these malaika said, لا تخافوا ولا تحزنوا. Don't be afraid, you've made it. Pass. You've been accepted. You're going to Jannah. Abshir. And what about behind? No, don't worry about that. We're going to take care of all of that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to, arrange for all of those things, right? لا تخافوا ولا تحزنوا. Don't fear, don't be anxiety stricken. It's going to work out fine. وَأَبْشِرُوا بِالْجَنَّةِ. And have this glad tidings. Take these tidings for the Jannah that you have been promised. نَحْنُ أَوْلِيَاؤُكُمْ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. We're your protectors. We're the ones looking after you. And we'll do so for your family members as well in this world. Because you are the friend of Allah, so we're the friends of Allah. وَلَكُمْ فِيهَا مَا تَشْتَهِي أَنفُسُكُمْ. Now just think about this. In this Jannah, you can have anything, everything, as much, whenever you want. Is there anybody in this world that has this kind of situation? Even Pharaoh, did he have everything he wanted? However he wanted? Does the President of the United States have everything that he wants, how he wants it? Does anybody? Nobody. And it's a very short time as well. Every Jannati, every person who goes into paradise, whatever your soul desires, whatever you want to eat, whatever you want to drink, whatever kind of palace you want to live in, whatever kind of spouse you would like to have, it's all there. In fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, "O son of Adam, ask." And you go on asking, maybe thousands of years will go on asking. You said, okay, you ran out of things? Okay, ask for this. I got some things you don't even know about. Ask for this and this and this and this and this. Forever. It's not like, okay, 1,000,000 years or 1,000,000,000 years. It's forever. It never ends. On the other hand, those who don't make it, that also never ends. People of kufr, people of shirk. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us. So you can imagine, now we're thinking, are we going to actually even be the people of Iman? Are we going to be accepted? So here these angels come and give us glad tidings. So you leave this world with that bishara. And then the grave becomes a rawdah min riyad al-Jannah, becomes a piece of Jannah, window to the Jannah, clothing of the Jannah, bedding of the sleep, relax, until the real thing comes, This is the preview, trailer if you will. And then the real. And as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, this Jannatul Firdaus, La yabghun anha hiwala. This is an amazing thing. Think about this. Okay, after 1,000,000,000, billion, trillions of quadrillions of years, one might think, well, maybe it's going to get boring. You ever thought about that? We get bored, living in the best of houses, after After a few years, especially the ladies, they said, yeah, come on, we've had this long enough. Let's shift to the next level, right? But in Jannatul Firdaus, nobody's going to think like that. Now, the reality of that we can't even imagine, because what's in there, as no ayn, as Nabi alayhi salam says, "Ma la aynun rat wa la udhun samiyat wa la khatara la qalbi bashar." No eye has ever seen these things. No ear has ever heard about such kind of thing. Nobody could, in their wildest imagination, imagine the kind of beautiful and amazing things that they're going to be enjoying in Jannah. And Abdullah ibn Abbas, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, Tarjuman al-Quran, by the admission of the Prophet, this is the greatest, mufassir of Quran there ever was. He says that the things of Jannah, like palace, like rivers, like damsels, like whatever, he said the only resemblance between those things in Jannah and their namesake in the world is the name. That's it. The reality, it's not, human language is not capable of explaining, describing those things. Therefore, Nabi said, no eye has seen that thing. Well, we haven't seen palaces, we haven't seen, we've seen the worldly ones. The next worldly ones, it's beyond our comprehension. And as it mentions, they will never want to leave from there. By the way, it's not remaining static, it's getting better and better and better and better. They're getting more beautiful, 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 stronger, 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 more and more and more enjoyment. And it goes on forever. خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا أَبَدًا. So that is the value of Iman. So tell me, folks, is that worth working on? Is that worth focusing on? Is that worth protecting? Is that worth preserving? Absolutely yes. And for that, there's the rest of our life for developing this Iman and protecting this Iman. There's a lot can be said here, but I'll just give one short sentence, which the ulama have mentioned, which is amazing. Very simple, but unlimited scope. The ulama say that Iman, it increases by obedience. And it decreases by disobedience. So when we perform a righteous action, suppose I say, Subhanallah. So there's a light in that, there's an effect. It brings a light into my heart. It opens, it raises the level of Iman. إِذَا ذُكِرَ اللَّهُ وَجِلَتْ قُلُوبُهُم. People of Iman, when they hear the name Allah, their hearts are, overawed. وَإِذَا تُلِيَتْ عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتُهُ زَادَتْهُمْ إِيمَانًا. They hear the Quran recited and their Iman, they feel it increasing. And so the ulama say this is true with every righteous action. Every righteous action that we do, it's going to generate a higher level of Iman. And with a higher level of Iman, it's going to generate a higher level of Amal Salih. So we get more Iman, we do more Amal Salih. More Amal Salih, we get more Iman, and we have a virtuous cycle. Now, if we commit sins, immediately, black spot comes on the heart, Iman starts to become corrupt, a decrease, immediate. And now, with the decrease in Iman, the less ability to do righteous deed. Less righteous deed, again, and perhaps committing sins, the Iman is going to continue to go a downward spiral. Less Iman, less Amal Salih, more sins, more decrease of Iman, and we have a vicious cycle. So the long and short of the equation is engaging consistently in righteous action and disengaging consistently in unrighteous action. For that, we need the company of righteous people. We need to be in the righteous environment, right? And remove ourselves from the opposite. So I have another expression which I say, connect with the connected and disconnect with the disconnected. The people who are connected with Allah, the places that are connected with Allah, spend maximum amount of time there. Remain in the company of such people, right? And decrease as far as possible. We know the dynamics of life, particularly in the United States in the 21st century. We have to do what we have to do. But we try to do the best that we can. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. And that's all we're required to do. So if we'll take this simple equation and try and apply it from now, inshallah, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, hopefully we'll be the people of Iman, and all of these virtues, inshallah, will be ours. And does it cost us a penny? It's all free for the taking. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give me and all of you tawfiq for that. Ameen thumma ameen. Wa akhir da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. So you want questions? Okay, questions, I have no problem with questions. The problem is if I have any answers. Probably not, but nevertheless.
Jazakumullah khairan, may Allah bless and preserve you. Usually we open it up to everyone else to ask questions, but I feel like this is my opportunity to ask the questions.
Okay.
I have two questions because I'm going to ask one, inshallah, bi'idhnillah, hopefully you answer it. And then I know some of the brothers want to ask another question, but they're not important right now. I will ask the second question. So the first question, and hopefully you're comfortable in answering. I don't want to make you uncomfortable.
That's a question?
No,
Yeah,
it's
I
coming.
can answer that one. I'm
It's
very
coming,
comfortable.
it's coming. My first question is, what started your journey? I heard from Sheikh Ibrahim, may Allah Azza wa Jal protect and preserve him, that you were once on a hiking trip. And something in regard...
I myself keep hearing new versions.
I'm trying to get to
I'm
trying to get to the authentic version. Something about a hiking trip and a snake, and you fell off in a bush, something.
Well, there's a lot, yeah. So a lot of different things happened. It wasn't like an aha moment, like all of a sudden, it was a long journey, and it was from my childhood, I could say. I was always, as a child, I was very introverted. I was given to thinking I was, I used to like to go out into nature and, be out there and ponder over the creation, though I was raised in an atheist house. I mean, my father was a very staunch atheist, and so that was basically the thing, but it never really made sense to me, by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So so a lot of things happen. That's a long story. I usually take about an hour or two to talk about that. But you're talking about a particular incident that happened in Big Sur. But that wasn't really a thing that Iman, I mean, I used to, and among the things I used to do was, and you'll find a lot of people who ultimately come to Islam or start a spiritual search, it often is connected with reflection on nature. We find Nabi alayhi salatu himself, the first thing that began in Nubuwwat was ru'yat as-salihah. He would see things in his dream, it would happen. وَحُبِّبَ إِلَيْهِ الْخَلَاء. He used to like to be alone, go away and go up to, the Ghar of Hira, right? So I used to like to do that. Actually, I was a professional musician before Islam, which is a very extreme way of living, and very bizarre, lifestyle. And so to get away from that, I used to go off into the country, and I used to go off into the mountains and go off into the desert and just meditate and whatever I used to be able to pick up. Like, I was into yoga and meditation, Zen Buddhism, and I had a mix of all kinds of stuff, whatever I could pick up here and there. And I would go out there and I would fast and I would do these spiritual exercises, whatever I, came across. And that particular incident, that was just, I was in Big Sur in California, and one of those times, and I was walking along a steep ravine, and my foot slipped. There was a snake. Where I was going to put my foot, there was a rattlesnake coiled and about to attack. And so either I step on him, or go up the side of the mountain, or fall off the cliff. So I didn't mean to fall off the cliff, but that's what happened. And now I'm falling free fall down the cliff into the ravine, and would end up in the river, and probably I wouldn't be here today. But luckily there was a tree that had fallen over on the cliff, so when I came, it caught me like that, and I'm suspended. So ultimately, somehow, Allah gave me tawfiq to get out of that, so I'm here to tell the story. But that was just a isolated incident. It was just part of the, that wasn't the reason why I became a Muslim, obviously. I mean, it's really connected, but it was just some of the interesting things that happened to me in the course of that journey. But so what actually happened was, after traveling in the Muslim lands for quite a long time, I saw things that showed me that, well, you could say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed me that this, what you're looking for, it's Islam, so I accepted it. That was in Ethiopia, yeah.
My last question. After that, it's Isha Salah, so we'll see. The second question was, from what I understand, you accepted Islam, Ethiopia, eventually you moved to Mecca, you lived in Mecca, going back and forth from Medina and Mecca for many years. Then ultimately Karachi, Banori town, and you've been there for many decades. You essentially left America for many, many decades, and you lived in
most of my life.
Most of your life. What caused you to come back? What was the reasoning?
What caused me to come back?
Yeah.
There's a short and a long answer to that. What caused me to come back? Qadr. You know? People ask me, why did you go to Pakistan? So again, the short and the long of it, Qadr. But actually I left, I had decided that I don't want to live in the United States in the end of the 1960s. Because of what it appeared to me and to many people of my generation, people in the arts and people who were against the kind of policies that the government was having and the kind of tyranny that was and bullying that the United States was doing all over the world, which it continues to. So I said, I don't want to be part of that. You would have seen that Muhammad Ali, rahmatullahi alayhi. Today, by the way, I saw a clip, I wish I had preserved that. I saw a clip of Muhammad Ali when he's standing before the draft board. And they're calling out the names, and you have to. So it was just the procedure that they know that he's not going to join, but they have to go through the procedure of say, okay, Muhammad Ali, come and join the army, and he explains why I'm not going to do that, and I would prefer to go to jail than go and kill people, innocent people, and which was a huge thing. So that was my generation as well, and I lived through all of that and saw that, was part of that thing as well, part of that struggle as well, and I came to the conclusion, I don't want to be part of it, I'm not going to live here, and I don't want to be here, And there's so many other things, the gross capitalism, materialism, and plus I also thought that there must be better places in the world, there must be places where people are connected with the Creator and they're living a life that He wants to live. Clearly it's not going on here, so that's why I left. Okay, why did I come back? Well, the same reason I left is the reason I came back. And when I say come back, people say, oh, you're permanently back? Well, number one, nobody's permanent here. And number two, I'm not permanently anywhere. I don't have any property here. I don't own anything here. I mean, I can leave any moment. I'm here as long as it's, I think it's suitable for me to be here. And the reason why I'm back is because now we have the situation here in America is there's a lot Islamically happening here. Like Ilyas has seen the days when, we used to eat Fatiha sandwiches. You remember that? Did you eat Fatiha sandwiches? Huh? Fatiha sandwich. There was no halal meat store. I remember when there was no halal meat store in the whole United States. Can you imagine that? No, you can't imagine that, I know. But it was. And so to find something halal was very difficult. And we didn't have any money either, so, what are we going to do? So we used to find very difficult, maybe you find a piece of bread, you recite Surah Fatiha, and Fatiha sandwich. That's what we had. So it was very difficult, and people, and after I left, then, people would say, oh, you need to come back here in America, we're doing it. So what do you got here? What's going on here? And I would come, look around, and say, well, Zarakacha, It doesn't look very appealing. And mashallah, in Pakistan, there was so much going on, and we can be involved in so many things. But now things have changed dramatically. So I started coming back about a decade ago. I started coming back more often. And Maulana Tamim in San Francisco, may Allah bless him, mashallah, he kind of, he tricked me into start coming. He said, let's do a short course. So we started with a short course of Ulum al-Hadith, and then ultimately, so I was traveling around, I was seeing what's going on. I said, wow, this is quite different. There's a lot of stuff happening here. And also a part of me, the businessman of me is, invest. invest. So I want to get a piece of the action here, so let's invest. So if I can do, as long as I feel like I can do something and I can be part of good things, and I can be of any, particular use. If Allah can use me in any of that, then fine. So as long as that's happening, great. And I see big opportunities here. I would even say, I think, and I think, what does my I think mean? But it seems to me that the huge awakening of the world is not going to come from the old Muslim countries. It's going to come from the new Muslim horizons, inshallah. And I think the most dynamic example we have of that is the United States. We have England, we have South Africa, we have many places, but America is unique. Not just because I'm American, and Americans all think they're unique, that's we're the most awesome thing on the planet. But the fact of the matter is, a very interesting thing we have in America, this might sound kind of strange, and it is, but it just goes to the dynamics which are unique to this country. We have in America celebrity imams. I know that sounds bad, and I don't like that, actually. That's a pretty dangerous thing. But think about this. And, Sami Hamdi, I don't know if follow Sami. He's a great guy, mashallah, bless him, protect him. Somebody asked him, he said, you're from England, but you come to America a lot, so what main difference you find? He says, I find that in England, we have, mashallah, these old madaris, we have all these old, very traditional, sort of stalwarts and, with a lot of preservation. They're really good at that. But in America, they have these celebrities. So like you don't have a young Muslim kid in England that, my hero is, Maulana Fulan. But we have people here in America, my hero is, whoever, Yusuf Suleiman, or, what's his name? Umar Suleiman, or some of these guys, Hamza Yusuf or somebody. Say, yeah, he's cool, he's like my celebrity. So that's dangerous for those guys, they to keep themselves, balanced. But so it's interesting that our youth now have role models that they look up to, celebrities, if you will, of this. So this shows a huge shift, And the amount that now I come from a Jewish family. Now we never used to see Jews. People used to they said a Jew becoming a Muslim, that's impossible. Hone sakte. People wouldn't believe it, But now we see a lot of Jewish people accepting Islam, particularly when they see the Palestinians. This is very interesting. Yeah, particularly young Jewish ladies and traditional, Orthodox Jewish people are looking at these Palestinians and say, wait a minute, these people look like biblical people. You think about Yaqub alayhi salam, Bani Israel, they were in the desert, they were the Muslims at the time. So who resembles them? Who? Those are the real people. So these are the people that we read about in the Bible, people like that. There was one Jewish girl. She was from, the Hasidim, the really Orthodox, you have them here, in Brooklyn. So she went to the rabbi one time and said, hey, look, Dawood alayhi salam, we read about him, he used to prostrate. Sajda, he used to make sajda. We don't do that. Why not? The Jews, they don't do that. They used to do that in their prayer, But now they have some rituals, now and again they do that, but that's not in their daily prayers. So anyway, she said the rabbi didn't, he said, no, we don't do that, or whatever, mansukh, I don't know what he said. But she wasn't really too satisfied with that. Then she saw a Muslim praying. Say, hey, that's the way Dawood alayhi salam, that's the way we used to pray. So now she says, I've not left Judaism, I'm in an upgraded version of it. So they come to realize, because they're the closest people to us, in Aqidah and all that. They were the Muslims of their time. They kind of messed up. They didn't recognize two prophets, which was a big deal. But they're still the closest people in terms of Aqidah, Sharia. It's very close. So all they have to do is say, okay, we believe in Isa alayhi salam, we believe in Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they're, good to go. So a lot of these people are now accepting Islam. This is unique. And it's more in America than we see anywhere else, So I see a lot of, and these poor Americans, Americans, for all that, all that negative that I've mentioned and others may mention, it's not the American people. And we all know that. It's the government, it's the powers that be. And that's usually corrupt anywhere you go. The American people are good people, really. They're nice people. And if they get the right message, we can hope that they're good. And they are. A lot of them are accepting Islam. Now, if we get our act together, we can expect, inshallah, that we're going to see them enter afwaja, So that's why I'm here. As long as I see that happening, I'll be here, inshallah. And not that I'm other places also. I'm back and forth. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
May Allah bless and preserve you, Sheikh. Inshallah, we will have the adhan and then we'll pray Salatul Isha. I know you're here till Friday morning, so if any of the brothers want to disturb you after Fajr.
Yeah, well, I don't exactly. We might go tomorrow, but we have to go to Boston from here. So it'll either be Thursday, maybe